The bike's been completed about 3 years now.
Yes. We're in the 3rd season of taking it out now.
And it's had a very positive reaction from people. They either love the mechanics of it, or the paintwork of it, or the leather seat, or they want to know the story. And sometimes one will lead into the other. Robert was a young lad who moved into us just before his 9th birthday. When he was 10 years old, we went to a camp. And at the end of the camp, on the way home, he said, "Mum, I've asked Jesus to be my friend." He carried on with his faith with friends in the local church. And at 15, he and 2 others came to us as parents and said, "We want to be baptized," which we were very happy about. And he was continuing to walk his Christian life. On Boxing Day night 2007, he went out with his big brother, and they went to a club where Robert became sick, and his big brother was in a different part of the club at the time. And quite rightly, the club people asked him to leave the club. Unfortunately, outside there were a couple of youths who were looking to get money from somebody and were very high in drink themselves. So they took Robert to an ATM, phoned another friend who came along with them. They walked him through Bedford, and we heard at the trial that they beat him up a bit on the riverbank and then threw him over the Engineers Bridge in Bedford. A police search was made on land for Robert between his brother's house, which was walking distance to our house, but because Robert was asthmatic, anything could have happened in between. It was a couple of days later that the police said they thought that they needed to check the river. Before those couple of days, I was doing things around the house in the morning and had a very strong sense of a line of a song repeating itself through my head time and time again. "When you go through the water, I'll be with you." And I asked Fred, and he agreed that that was probably for us, that's what we thought, to encourage us that God was with us, God would be with Robert, and he was going through this time with us. It was only after the police said they needed to dredge the river that we realised that it was a confirmation, really, of Rob's position with the Lord, that he'd gone through this river at the end of his life, and the Lord had gone with him, and at some point, we don't know where on that journey, he would have made himself very well known to Robert and taken him home to heaven.
It's just a thing that a parent never wants to hear. But God was amazing. He gave us straight away the attitude that we wanted to forgive these youths for what they'd done. Going through the trial of Robert's killers was the worst challenge that we've had to the decision to forgive them. We heard all the horrible detail of what happened that night, and there were nights we would come away from the trial feeling very angry and hurt about what had happened. The wonderful thing was that somehow God replaced that anger and pain with peace, a real deep and beautiful peace, just a lovely sense of his presence. It was around those times that I started to get this idea, wouldn't it be lovely to have a bike in Rob's memory? Rob had a lovely mountain bike which was white, and that became the starting point of it. The words that were given to Fran when Robert was missing, they're in the Old Testament, but they also come at the end of Pilgrim's Progress. These are the words that encourage him to ford the river and reach his final destination, the eternal city. Coupled with that is the fact that where Robert was drowned is just downstream from where John Bunyan was baptised. There's a plaque in the side of the river. And so these things have stuck in my mind and given me a great sense that God is encouraging us with those words that he was with Robert that night. And so I've called the bike the Pilgrim, and I've used artwork from Pilgrim's Progress. The picture on the left-hand side of the tank comes from the early part of Pilgrim's Progress, where he comes to the cross and he realizes that this is the place where Jesus Christ has died for him, for his sins, just as I found as a youngster. The picture on the top of the tank is a picture of Jesus watching over a biker as he's riding the road of life. And that's shorthand, if you like, for the bulk of the book Pilgrim's Progress, because Jesus does watch over us, he does take care of us. The picture on the right side of the tank is from the end of Pilgrim's Progress. As he tries to ford the river, his courage fades, his faith starts to waver, and it's these words that we give him to Fran that encourage him and give him the strength to continue to ford that river and reach the eternal city. Pilgrim is looking over his shoulder with a lovely smile, and it's Robert. That's Robert finishing his pilgrimage, finishing his life.
It's been a privilege taking it to different places. Sometimes it's been the CMA rallies. Sometimes we've been to local events like Fates or a school. And
we also get invited to other bike groups, rallies as well, and put it on display there.
Yes. And because Robert's story is a tragic one in a sense, he's a young man who's died young by a foul mean. It allows some people to sort of look at their own hurts and share those with us, and that's quite a privilege. And it's not that we can necessarily say a lot to them, but there is a sharing in that sense as well.
Yeah, it's certainly helped people to open up in that way. I know we men find it difficult to talk about our emotions and difficult things that have happened, but I know that being out with the bike has helped some people to talk about their feelings about a serious loss that they've had, possibly for the first time. And I remember being up in Aviemore with the bike last year, and we met a lovely couple. They had been through a similar experience to ourselves and lost a child. And through talking and through sharing, through praying with this couple, we heard later on that the man had had the best night's sleep that he'd had since they lost their child. And I believe that was the power of God working through what we were able to share and being able to pray with them. So, and again, it's been a challenge to a lot of people to think about faith.
Yes.
And we know that we've sown the seeds of the gospel to many, many people over the past getting on for 3 years now, and that is such a privilege and an honour to be able to do that.
It's not the only thing that's come out of Robert's death, because in Bedford the churches got together. They didn't want another youth to be beaten up or murdered or anything else that happened to a young lady who was vulnerable. And they got together and over the next year laid the foundations for Bedford Street Angel, and it's now been going. It's 9 years.
Yes.
Yes.
And again, that helps people in all sorts of different situations, but it does help people who find themselves in the same situation as Robert. We will go and look after them, stay with them as long as needed, and do our best to ensure that they get home safely.